All right. So when I looked at our top 10 episodes of the year, our number one episode was number one and two episodes were all related to the same broad topic, dairy.
Yes.
Number one was Buttergate, and then number two was the CDC's Canadian Dairy Commission's
Oh, was
increase
it?
of
Ah.
So
And that's number
very
5 on the
popular.
list of stories of the year. Yeah,
So where
absolutely.
where
So the
so
dairy,
butter
they're somewhat related because the Canadian Dairy Commission obviously made history in November by announcing that farm gate milk prices are going up by 8.4%, which is almost double the previous record. That's a lot, and probably Canadians will start seeing that hit in mid-winter, February, March.
Hmm.
Butter is going up 12.4%. That's probably due to Buttergate. The cane dairy farmers won't admit it. The CDC won't admit it either. But that's basically why, because once you stop using palmite, which is a palm oil derivative, it will increase your cost of production. But I think 2021 was a very good year for the dairy sector, I think, because people got to learn more about dairy production. And it really, those stories made the system more transparent and more
Hmm.
accountable. And even though we're having some issues with the Canadian Dairy Commission to get access to primary data, which we won't have access to, unfortunately, because we did talk to the accounting firm responsible to collect data, we still won't be able to get access to primary data, unfortunately. So nobody really knows
Hmm.
how they came up with the 8.4%, unfortunately, and
You,
that's something we're gonna have to live with.
you did learn something new from my recollection that the purging of dairy, or however they call it, is in the number. In other words, when dairy farmers have to throw away milk, that factors
Oh
into the
yeah,
numbers, right?
I mean,
And you didn't think that was the case?
even there. Well, no, I think I knew it was the case, but dairy farmers themselves don't see it that way, and often I spoke to a lot of dairy farmers, and I always realize, Michael, them a lot of dairy farmers don't even understand how supply management actually works. They don't understand what the CDC does, because really what they focus on is on making milk, which they're experts in making good milk for Canadians. That's what they do. But they don't necessarily understand the mechanics of the entire regime, which is understandable. But so when you tell them that Canadians pay for dump milk, they don't understand that because they just see their revenues go down, but it's actually embedded in the cost. And of course,
Mm.
they rearrange quotas as a result. The other thing, of course, is the issue related to the survey itself. Dairy farmers can refuse to be part of the survey, which I didn't know, actually. I thought
Mm.
once the CDC, which is a crown corporation, once you get the phone call, you have to participate in the survey, but they don't have to, which means the sample, like who actually participates in this survey.
Right.
And what I was told by
Kind of.
the accounting firm is that once they commit for 5 years, but who are they? Like, what size are these farms, and are they efficient? They say that they actually randomly select farms, but if they can refuse to participate, does it mean that we only get in the sample less efficient farms and we to increase farm gate prices? Is that how it works? We don't
What,
know.
what do you call that in your profession? Sample bias, right? That it inherently, if you
Well,
can opt out,
absolutely.
then there's a bit of sample bias. I don't know which way it goes, but so let me ask
Well,
you this question just to close off on dairy. If you were a dairy farmer, would you have considered 2021 a good year?
no, no. Well, dairy. I think it was a good year, but I don't think dairy farmers thought it was a good year, essentially because they think about their image. They're very concerned about their image, and I'm more concerned about accountability and transparency. And for me, when you look at those two criteria, it was a good year for them. They may not acknowledge it, but moving forward, I think it's going to be a good year. But they do have a massive marketing budget of $150 million a year, so they can buy love. They're buying.
Mm.
I'm sure you've seen their ads now. I mean, they're everywhere. They're spending a
everywhere.
lot of money to make you forget about Buthergate, to make you forget about the fact that your cheese, your yogurt are about to get more expensive in a few weeks from now.
Well, let's talk about a different type of farmer, potato farmers on the great island
Number
province of
4.
PEI. Is that still? So I've actually lost track of it a bit. So the story was, we talked about a couple episodes that there was a bit of potato fungus. It was under control, but
It's a
then the government
wart.
stepped in and
Well,
said, "Thou shalt not export." And where do we sit with that?
I think when you look at that case, the year 2021 really reminded us yet again that science always take a backseat to trade politics. That's basically what it is. PI farmers, I feel for them. Potato farmers on the island are really upset. If you haven't followed the story, you haven't missed anything, Michael, because the problem is still there.
Huh?
So 2 farms had warts on potatoes. The CFI has protocols to follow, science-based protocols, but when politics came in, the minister basically should embargo only on PI potatoes to save the potato industry across Canada. But there's some rumors suggesting that perhaps something else is at play. For example, there's this issue about EV electric vehicles, the production of electric vehicles. It's not something I know very well, but there's a lot of different issues related to trades that sometimes impact food, and I think this may be one case, unfortunately.
It's very intertwined. It was the Biden latest campaign that actually got stopped in Congress, which might not necessarily be a bad thing for Canadians, because there was an not just an EV substitute, but it was, you had to have make the cars in America, which
In
which
America.
which went against CUSMA, because there's a
Yeah.
trade. So we would wound up in, but that's okay. It's not unusual for us to wind up in some adjudication process with our American
The
friends.
sad
So
thing is that we don't believe that this problem will be settled before New Year's,
mm,
and if that happens, the industry may actually have to discard some potatoes, unfortunately. So we will lose
yeah,
some supplies. So it's just
yeah.
not a great. And frankly, this embargo, once you put in an embargo against an island like that, like PI, it's hard to get rid of it. And so
Yeah.
basically, Ag Canada picked all other provinces over PI, and PI's reputation will
Mm.
be damaged, unfortunately.
Well, not with me. When I think of potatoes, I think of PEI. That's not going to
I
change.
do
So,
too, and they're
you
great.
know,
And
great
if you
potatoes are my
can, buy some
potatoes.
for the holidays.
Yep. PEI potatoes. Love them if I can find them.
Yeah,
Last couple of things. We talked a lot about the food worker in
yeah.
2021. I got to think that I know that made your list. And I guess from one part, it's, the COVID outbreaks, the strikes, the increase of pay, the need for technology and processing plants, all the way to the front lines of, how and where the grocery workers were the grocery heroes, hero for a day,
Yeah.
paid. What's your kind of thoughts around, is there anything that happened in 2021 that you see continuing on? I got to think these pay raises and people recognizing the work that goes on in these production facilities, I got to think that's another add to both the cost of the food, but importantly, these people are getting paid what they're probably what they're
Yeah.
worth, right?
I think with 2020, people noticed that food workers exist, and they did gain
Mm,
political capital. In 2021, they actually uh, financially benefited from that gained political capital. I think that's basically what's going on right now. When you look at deals at Nabisco, Kellogg's, Cargill in High River, Alberta, Exceldor in Quebec, Holimel. I mean, they all got a lot of money over several years. But of course, most of these companies are now committed more towards robotics and automation as well. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
you're seeing really wages going up in the industry, which is great news for them. But obviously, over time, we are expecting more automation to change the industry overall. But the one thing that caught my attention in the United States was the fact that Hollywood great Danny DeVito actually was asked to become the spokesperson for Nabisco workers. And honestly, I don't know about you, Michael, but I've never seen a Hollywood actor being asked to advocate for food workers like that very openly. It was really interesting.
Yeah. The last thing I remember is maybe it was Woody Harrelson talking about the workers that come up from South America to pick all the fruits and vegetables in California, right? So
Yeah,
there's been a strong connection, I think, between Hollywood and the food workers who are kind of brought up. But you're right. I mean, it's raised to a new level. Now, speaking of raised to a new level, there's been a couple of comments when we make posts about, okay, everything you say is fine, but why aren't you talking more about climate change? Why are you talking about boats in the Suez Canal? Shouldn't we be
yeah.
talking about the big issue? So I saw, climate change, heat domes, all these things. They've got to have a
Atmospheric
big impact.
rivers. Oh
Yeah,
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 absolutely. So that number two on our list this year, that wasn't hard to pick in my view. I don't know about you, but really, I think what happened in BC in particular this year, if you're a climate change skeptic and you live in BC, there's something wrong with you.
Like, what's it going to take? Like, what's it going to take? Like flaming toads from the sky? Like, what's it
Oh
going to
my
take to convince
God.
you?
I mean, Linton at 49.6 degrees. That's insane. That's a lot.
Yeah,
So the heat dome in June, the atmospheric rivers in the fall, really
yeah.
it gets everyone. I hope it will get everyone to believe that our supply chains are vulnerable, but also, I mean, with climate change, we need to focus on, how do we make sure that agriculture and processing continues to remain competitive despite all the things that Mother Nature throws at us.
And what role can the choices we have at grocery store play in some small way? You know, choosing local versus whatever. That's not always easy.
Yeah,
We don't grow avocados in Winnipeg. Speaking of avocados, that was a top story for us.
that's right.
Um, so all these things come together. Now, number one in your list gets us all the way back to the beginning of the podcast, which is food inflation, right? So, from
Yeah.
your perspective, that's the most important story of 2021, right?
Were you surprised?
No, no, that's got to be the story.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any idea of how many interviews I've given this year.
How many?
I
How many?
So guess, just guess.
Now, it's
I
not
actually
fair because
log every week. I actually log the number of interviews every single week, French and English.
now it's not fair because you told me. I think you told me the total. It was like 1,100 or something, or 1,200. Was it?
So I'm right now, as we speak, I'm at 1,210,
Wow.
1,210. Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy. And I would say probably half of them were related to food inflation, at
Now, it's
least.
not it's not unusual for the media to call you up for your expertise, but if you look back 3 years pre-COVID, you were in the media as well fairly often, but has that do you think there's more stories going on, or do you think the number of times people are calling you obviously a reflection of your expertise, but obviously also a reflection of interest in the subject matter? Would you say yes?
I would say, well, I mean, the 2020 was my busiest year with media. I would say, but my second busiest year with media was this year, over the last 20 years or so. And the third busiest was probably 2019. So it's just getting busier. And frankly, I I enjoy working with media, to be honest, because I they I mean, they give me information.
Yeah.
If you play the game, they give you reporters know what's going on and they know what the public wants to know. And so, as an academic, it fuels our research because we get to know what matters to people. And so that's why we're very intimately related, or we work very closely with media because they give us a lot of information. Yeah, and I
Well,
know
I mean,
you do too as well.
yeah, I look at it more for you. I look at it as a great thing because it pulls information out of academia and puts it into the public eye where it kind of belongs, right? It becomes a public good. And
Yeah,
so I appreciate, your contribution that says, well, we're doing all this great work and let's make sure that people understand. They may or may not agree with it all the time. I had to laugh. One of my favorite comments was from, what was it? You were on a panel with Medline Michael Medline, and he says, "Hey, Sylvain, I agree with him 70% of the time, not 100% of the
Yeah.
time." So,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
not
I
bad
mean,
for
of
Michael,
course,
right? 7 out of 10.
so I had oh, absolutely. So I had a column in the Toronto Star over the weekend and on farmland management and what we should do with rural economies and things like that. Because I was arguing that over the next 50 years, having enough farmland should be the least of our concern because of what's going on with dairy, with meat products, meat consumption. We're gonna have to figure out ways to populate rural communities. That's going to be a big problem because a lot of people are actually either going into rural communities because they want to live there and have space and freedom, but not farm necessarily. So those are questions marks that I've raised in my article, and of course I did get a lot of positive comments, but I also I received negative comments as well, which I will not share in detail. But when you're actually out there in the media and you have an opinion, you should expect to get all sorts of reactions, of course.
I guess it's the Vox Populi peer review, I guess, so to speak, right? You're they're not your colleagues, or they're not in your profession, but the fact that they take the
Well,
time to say I
I must
disagree,
say, I mean, some of
interesting,
the
right?
emails I get, I'm not even sure the person is actually sober. So that's,
Yeah.
you know, they're sent like at
Wow.
10 or 11 at night, and you go, oh boy, okay. And I don't reply.
Ah. Yeah. Wow.
If it's
No, no
positive, I
need.
will reply. I will thank them. But if it's
Yeah.
negative, I just, whatever. Yeah.
No, whatever. Well, all right. Well, listen, hey, a great episode, and we're back. We're taking a bit of a hiatus. We're back in the mid of January. We've got lots of great products for trying stuff. You can see some of them on, for those watching, you can see half of them on my shelf behind me. We've got Joanne LeBlanc as our first guest to kick off the year, a real mentor of
That's right.
yours, I believe.
Yes, absolutely.
So she's got a tremendous expertise in all things like e-commerce and all that. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's, I think, on the 13th, January 13th. So we're taking a bit of a hiatus. We got lots of fun stuff planned for 2022. We'll also kick off with a bit of our predictions for 2022. It's good time to do it. So until then, make sure and smash that subscribe button, whether it's on your podcast platform or whether it's on YouTube, and keep up with everything we've got going on. We got lots of fun stuff coming in the new year. Savannah, it was such a treat, as always, for 2022 to spend time with you. Great to see you in person, actually, which is
absolutely. That was a bonus.
Extra super fun. And I guess it was very characteristic of 2022, right? We saw each other in person, then I had to send you a note that there was a COVID exposure. So there it is. Thumbs up. Thumbs up the year. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Go get tested. Anyway, all right. Well, listen, I'm Michael LeBlanc, president of Maven Media Group, and also host and producer of the all-new Last Request Barbecue Show on YouTube. So check that out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Be sure to check that out. And you are?
Sylvain Charlebois, and I want to wish all our listeners happy holidays and be safe.